Humanity is enslaved, not by any king or empire, but by the gods above. They torment the mortals who worship them. They are a cancer that must be excised. Origin. Choose one. Soulbound warrior. It happened as a child. You were playing in the forest when you stumbled across a magical artifact, an ancient weapon forged by the gods themselves. Upon touching it, the weapon disappeared, bound to your soul forever. Rip and tear. Blood and gore, slaughter and death. This is all you have ever known. Raised a warrior, a fighter, a soldier, your very rage and hate fuels your strength, your unbreakable willpower driving you forward, until you are the only one left, standing amidst a sea of corpses. Death's legacy. You are the child of death itself, the Grim Reaper. While your parent could never touch the immortals of this world, you are not them. You can do what your parent failed to do. You can bring death to the undying. Prince of Fire. Born from a strange rare union of a human and a grand dragon, you are one of the few Dragonborn to ever exist. Wielding the powers of both races, you shall bring the Lords of the Sky crashing to the ground. Godspawn. The product of the very gods you despise. Demigods like you are feared around the world for their power, and their ability to do whatever they want, as long as they do not interfere with the gods' plans. Nightkin. Almost as rare as the hybrid dragon spawn are the Damphirs, the half-vampires, able to walk in the sunlight while wielding all the powers of the night. You can even eat human food instead of drinking blood. Prey. Choose at least one. Vampire Lords. The ancient vampires wield powers of the night, possessing far greater strength and speed than an average mortal, as well as sharper senses. All vampires are masters of stealth, and prefer to strike from the shadows rather than take direct approaches. Every vampire is different, some possessing invisibility, flight, shapeshifting, or other dark powers. Every vampire fears the sunlight, as it burns their skin, and they can only be killed through either decapitation or the destruction of the heart. Lich Kings. Masters of necromancy. The Lich Kings are not particularly strong or durable, but they do command massive armies of undead soldiers, and each one wields fearsome magical powers. Despite their significant intellect, most tend not to be tactical geniuses, nor are they frontline generals, preferring to send their almost mindless hordes out to collect more specimens for their horrid experiments. Liches need to be completely destroyed, or else they will magically reform. Mage Fire is quite effective against them. Dragons. The masters of wing and claw, of fire and air, the dragons claim dominion over most of the skies of this world, and claiming dominion is what they do best. They are masters of domination, but other than the few grand dragons, which can shapeshift, most dragons are largely identical, being larger than any animal, and with scales like steel. Their underbellies and wings are their only weak points. Dragons are also well known to be very overconfident and easy to bait into traps. Gods. Though the fewest in number, each god is an army of its own. Each god is unique in every way, some possessing incredible strength, others being nigh unkillable, and some wielding fearsome elemental magics. Each god can also be killed differently, but most need to be slain by magic, either through a spell or by a magic weapon. There are several pantheons of gods. Each treats the mortals under their rule differently, but in total there are only a few dozen gods on this world. A few dozen too many. Birthplace. Dark Kingdoms of Zazia. Zazia is actually made up of over a dozen different nations, each ruled by a vampire lord or a lich king. The nations of Zazia are in a constant state of warfare, much like the Northlands, as the lesser vampires constantly betray and manipulate each other. The humans of this land either live in roving nomadic tribes, or they live in rough stone cities, desperately protecting themselves from the creatures of the night who seek to take them away for their blood or for their bodies. Olympia. Olympia is arguably the best place in the world to live. The humans live in relatively nice cities, and despite their distrust of strangers, they are rather friendly to each other. Their gods are content to let the humans simply worship them, but they do often go down into the nation and toy with the mortals, and they have occasionally wiped the nation clean and started over again. The gods of Olympia also often have children with the mortals, meaning that Olympia is crawling with mighty demigods who often abuse their power and citizens. The Duat Empire. The Duat is only second to Olympia in terms of quality, as the gods of this land are even more distant than the gods of Olympia, preferring to sit back and make the mortals build massive structures and monuments in honor to them, especially stone pyramids. The Duat mostly covers desert lands with intermittent lush valleys and oases. The Duatian cities are some of the largest in the world, as are their standing army, despite their emperor being little more than a puppet for the gods. Maya. Maya is a land of thick jungles and beautiful rainforests, but the gods of this land are cruel and bloodthirsty, and the people are arguably more so. The citizens of Maya are very warlike, often raiding the neighbouring Duat and bringing back many prisoners and slaves. They also often sacrifice their criminals and captured prisoners of war to their gods atop their mighty stone pyramids, ripping out hearts in honour to the gods. Draconia. Mountainous Draconia is the land of the dragons, and is arguably the worst place for humans to live. The dragons and their loyal priests govern most aspects of Draconian life, and their wars are, well, draconian. The dragons are ruthless tyrants who frequently make their subjects build exquisite temples and monuments to them, and some often burn down human villages just for fun. The largest cities are actually built high into the mountains, and those are the ones most loyal to the dragon overlords. The Northlands. The Northlands are in a constant state of warfare with themselves and their neighbouring nations, as the gods of this land are gods of war and battle, and thus their followers worship them through the act of warfare. The Northlands are bitter and cold, and the people there are tough, harsh, and very distrusting of strangers. If you can survive and prove yourself strong, the fractured Northlands are all yours for the taking. Mentor. This is the person who raised you and taught you all you know. Choose one. The Soldier. Artemidora is the daughter of an Olympian demigod, and thus possesses greater strength and speed than a normal person, but nothing too wondrous. However, she supplants this by being trained in combat from birth, and being a masterful archer, duelist and fighter. Artemidora is sarcastic, stubborn, and very, very determined. She will train you very thoroughly, making sure you are completely prepared for the world. The Huntress. The youngest daughter in a line of noble vampire hunters. Antravette considers herself far too young to be a mentor, but she's going to give it a shot anyway. A master marksman and fighter. Anne's people have been fighting against the vampires in Zassia for centuries. They've gotten damn good at it, and she'll make sure you are too. Anne is cocky, confident, skilled, and tends to get in bar fights a little too often due to her short temper. The Spell Sword. A masterful duelist and skilled mage, Juliana the Spell Sword has all but mastered the art of infusing her weapons with raw magic, giving them far more power against the forces of darkness. She specializes in water and ice manipulation, and she can hurl spikes of ice from her blade that can spear a man straight through. She is a very strict, competent teacher, who does not tolerate slacking, but is also a great listener, and a shoulder for you to cry on. The Tracker. A skilled witch hunter and old werewolf, Enkat the Tracker is one of the best hunters and survivors in the world. He is a master of laying traps, tracking prey, slaying monsters. With his lycanthropy, he can track down and fight off most vampires out there. He is a surprisingly gentle, calm mentor, being very understanding of mistakes. He is a gruff, stern old man who prefers the peace and quiet, and will frequently grumble if you keep interrupting his me time. The Marksman. Ursa Honskloddottir is a Nordic demigod and rivals Enkad in her tracking and hunting skills, but she usually hunts fierce monsters and horrific beasts rather than vampires, undead, and witches. Ursa excels in her marksmanship and is capable of hitting an eye from hundreds of yards away. She also excels in surviving in the Northlands, a difficult thing to do. She is a stoic yet kind person, and will care deeply for you, even if she doesn't show it. The Druid. A very old wizard, Cortillus the Druid has wandered the world for his whole life, and has picked up quite a few skills. He is a master of medicine, nature magic, and survivalism, and he can teach all of this to you. Well, most of it. He occasionally suffers from brief losses of memory where he forgets huge chunks of his life, only for it to return in a few hours. He is also easily distracted, but there are few more knowledgeable in the world than he. The Slayer. An old dragon slayer, Wolf has spent most of his life alone after dragons slaughtered his people, and now he is unused to company, so he is quite awkward socially. Beyond that, he is a mountain of a man, standing at almost 7 feet tall and being made out of muscle. Wolf has fought dozens of dragons over his long life, and wields an axe almost as big as you. He will care for you as best he can, but he does not tolerate weakness or cowardice. The Bard. Jade is a popular and talented travelling musician and bard, entertaining the masses with her beautiful voice and soothing melodies. Beyond that, she is an excellent and sly thief, capable of breaking most locks and a master of sleight of hand, and she's pretty skilled with a dagger. Jade is also a master of blending in, escape, and lying. She is extremely charismatic, cunning, charming, and seductive, capable of sweet-talking her way past almost anyone. The Sorcerer. Sabatok the Sorcerer is one of the mightiest in the Duat Empire, and is a master of illusions and shadow magics, which most consider to be frightening powers. He is capable of making enormous monsters appear out of thin air, and uses them to chase away enemies. He can teach you to make illusions and how to identify and dispel them. Despite his love of scaring people, he is actually a rather kind, charismatic person who loves jokes and loves to laugh. Powers. You have 60 points to spend on your powers. Strength. Level 1, 5 points. You possess peak human strength, enough to lift a horse if you try with all your might, and you can stab most bones with ease. Level 2. Requires level 1, 5 points. Your strength is equal to most vampires and demigods, allowing you to throw around fully grown horses and men, and easily tear off limbs. Level 3. Requires level 2, 10 points. Your strength is equal to most lesser gods, allowing you to lift massive boulders and punch people into paste. You could even lift and throw a fully grown dragon. Durability. Level 1, 5 points. Your bones are several times harder to break, and your skin is more resistant to blunt force trauma. Level 2 requires level 1, 5 points. Your skin is as hard as wood. Arrows and most swords find it harder to bite through your skin and into the muscle, at least when wielded by a normal human. Level 3 requires level 2, 10 points. Your skin is as hard as a dragon's scales, making your skin fireproof, and it easily deflects arrows and most weapons. Agility. Level 1, 5 points. You possess peak human speed, enough to outpace any human and even some lesser vampires. Level 2. Requires level 1, 5 points. Your speed is equal to most vampires and demigods, allowing you to easily outpace any horse, catch arrows with your hands, and you are skilled in parkour. Level 3. Requires level 2, 10 points. Your speed is equal to most lesser gods, allowing you to run faster than a cheetah and dodge arrows from any distance. Immunity. Level 1, 5 points. You are completely immune to any and all viruses, bacteria, and other diseases. Level 2. Requires level 1, 5 points. You are immune to any and all toxins, poisons, and other dangerous substances, including most drugs. Level 3. Requires level 2, 5 points. You now no longer visibly age. You can still die of old age, you just do not appear to age, and you do not suffer from the negative effects of old age. Resistance. Heat, 5 points. You are immune to high temperatures and the negative effects of fire. Your skin and hair cannot be burned. Cold, 5 points. You are immune to low temperatures and the negative effects of ice. You cannot get frostbite or hypothermia. Electricity, 5 points. You are immune to the effects of electricity, meaning you cannot be electrocuted even when shocked while in water or when struck by lightning. Regeneration. Level 1, 5 points. Minor wounds and bruises heal up quickly, disappearing within minutes of getting them. Level 2. Requires level 1, 5 points. Major, potentially lethal wounds can close up within minutes, and all of your organs possess the regenerative qualities of the liver. Level 3. Requires level 2, 5 points. Entire limbs can regrow over the course of hours, and devastated or removed organs can regrow within the same amount of time. Senses. Level 1, 5 points. You possess peak human sensory ability, and you can see in the dark as easily as you see in day. Level 2. Requires level 1, 5 points. Your senses are almost as good as a vampire's. You can track people through smell, hear from miles away, and see like a hawk. Willpower. Level 1, 5 points. Your willpower is so immense that you can ignore pain, shock, and you can power through grievous wounds. Level 2. Requires level 1, 5 points. You have so much willpower that you can resist hypnosis and mental attacks from vampires and sorcerers. Intellect. Level 1, 5 points. You possess a perfect idyllic photographic memory with perfect recall abilities. Level 2. Requires level 1, 5 points. You now have genius level intellect, equal to the greatest minds in history. Fire magic. Level 1, 5 points. Start fires from a distance, generate and help blasts and balls of fire, and even telekinetically manipulate nearby flames. Level 2. Requires level 1, 10 points. You can now generate large blasts and balls of mage fire, a magical fire that burns very hot and can sustain itself underwater. Ice magic. Level 1, 5 points. You can flash freeze small objects through touch, freeze water into ice, and telekinetically lift and throw ice around you. Level 2. Requires level 1, 10 points. You can flash freeze entire people from a distance, generate and hurl ice spikes from thin air, and create ice walls from the ground. Air magic. Level 1, 5 points. You can generate blasts of wind that knock back enemies, knock away arrows, and you can slow your descents with wind. Level 2. Requires level 1, 10 points. You can generate blasts of wind so strong you can knock dozens off their feet. You can generate bolts of electricity from your fingers. Soulbound weapons. Only the Soulbound Warrior can take these powers. Each Soulbound weapon can be summoned and unsummoned at will. Your first weapon is free. All others cost 5 points each. The Morrigan's Blade. This simple plain sword may seem ordinary, yet it is anything but. With this blade you can speak to any bird, shapeshift into a bird, and you become undetectable while standing still. Not even vampires can sniff you out in this form. The Moonlit Axe. This otherworldly axe is incredibly lightweight, and can fire up blasts of blinding moonlight at enemies. It also always flies back at you after being thrown or dropped, and you do not need to breathe while holding the axe. The Repulsor Sword. This sword generates a constant field around it that deflects any and all weaponry that comes towards it. A weapon with enough strength behind it can break through, but it will have vastly reduced velocity. The Drake Flame Blade. This mighty blade burns hot with mage fire, and is capable of hurling balls of mage fire with each swing. It also consumes nearby fire, especially dragon fire, absorbing it into the blade and protecting you from it. The Archangel Spear. This heavenly spear allows you to summon a pair of glowing wings and take flight, as fast as the fastest bird. It also allows you to, once a day, summon a pair of spectral armored warriors that last for roughly 20 minutes and will fight for you. The Spectral Bow. This glowing bow will generate spectral arrows when the string is pulled, and the arrows will ignite upon impact, setting whatever it hits on fire. The arrows will also severely damage any and all vampires nearby with a flash of sunlight, and the arrows can pierce spectral forms. The Runic Crossbow. This rapid-fire crossbow is reloaded magically, with the bolt simply appearing in the crossbow a few moments after it has been fired. The bolts also explode a few seconds after impact, large enough to blow off a person's limb and send people flying. The Guardian Shield. This unbreakable shield can protect you from any form of physical, magical, or divine damage, as long as it impacts the shield and not you. The shield also makes you completely immovable while stationary. Not even a dragon could make you budge while you're holding the shield. The Chaos Wand. This incredible wand expands its wielder's magical abilities. In the hands of a master, it can create or summon large thunderstorms, firestorms, tornadoes, and blizzards. Berserker Powers. Only those with a Rip and Tear origin can take these powers. Your first power is free. All other powers cost 5 points each. Spartan's Rage. The staple of the Berserker. The Rage gives you a brief yet massive boost to your strength, speed, and stamina, at the cost of part of your sanity, as you become a mindless killing machine slaughtering all in your path. Viking Shield. Your body is covered in mysterious divine runes that shield you from harm. Most of the divine powers of gods and magic cannot touch you, but you also find it much harder to use magic with these runes active. Mayan Sacrifice. You can, almost like a vampire, absorb life energy from the people you slaughter, taking it into yourself and slightly healing your wounds. If you rip out someone's heart and eat it, your wounds begin to rapidly heal and close up, and you get a massive boost to your stamina. Hyde's Boots. You can now focus a burst of strength into your legs, catapulting you forward and up, faster than a cannon shot. With your mass and this speed, anything you impact will be knocked away like a horse swatting away a fly. Even dragons will be stunned and knocked from the sky by the sheer force of you. The Slayer's Aura. The mere presence of you is enough to make most lesser vampires and demons quake in their boots. Only the strongest and bravest will stand against you as real opponents and not foot soldiers trying to get in your way. Animal Form. You can at will transform into one of 3 animal forms. You can shapeshift into a massive bear, a fierce wolf, or a wild boar. You retain all mental faculties while in this form, and you can pick and choose which animal you turn into each time you do so. Reaper Powers. Only those with the Death's Legacy origin can take these powers. Your first power is free. All other powers cost 5 points each. Death's Blade. A soulbound scythe, the Blade of Death can be summoned and dispelled at will, and its blade is all but unbreakable and is razor sharp, capable of cutting through enemies with ease. The blade can also kill ghosts and those in spectral forms. Spectral Form Alpha. The primary spectral form, you become untouchable, and you cannot interact with anything. You can phase in and out of sight, and you can enter and exit this form at will. In this form, you can fly as fast as you run, and you can phase through any matter in your path. Spectral Form Beta. The secondary spectral form, you become more like a gas than a ghost. You can interact with things in this form, and only magic can touch you. You can also slip through tiny cracks in doors and walls, but you cannot fly or phase through matter. Death's Door. You can slip through the spaces in the world, briefly teleporting short distances at a time. This also allows you to enter pocket dimensions and pass through magically shielded areas. You can only jump up to a few dozen meters at a time, and you cannot jump into matter. Aura. You can both see and manipulate the auras of those around you, allowing you to summon and control ghosts. This is good for identifying undead, gods, and enemies in general, even through walls or floors. You can amplify your own aura, instilling fear or panic in those nearby. Hellfire. You can summon a dark blue fire that burns just like mage fire, but is extremely damaging to undead and ghosts. This fire bites the very soul, and is incredibly dangerous to all magical creatures. Dragonborn powers. Only those with the Prince of Fire origin can take these powers. Your first power is free. All other powers cost 5 points each. Dragon's Flight. You gain a large pair of dragon-like wings from your back that allow you to produce, lift, glide and fly just like a dragon, and faster than any horse. You have instant mastery over your skills of flying, and your senses, reflexes, and reaction times are much sharper while in the air. Dracaun Scales. A thin yet extremely durable layer of scales grows in over most of the vulnerable portions of your body, and you gain a row of sharp teeth and razor-sharp retractable claws on each finger and on each of your toes. This layer of scales makes you fireproof, and very few mortal weapons can harm you. Smaug's Breath. Breathe in air and breathe out a torrent of dragon fire, hot enough to incinerate any human, and even hot enough to melt iron. You can sustain this stream for up to 10 seconds, and it will stretch out roughly 30 meters. You are immune to the heat and damage of your own flames. Ancient Knowledge. The dragons possess ancient knowledge due to their tendency to hoard things, and you have access to some of this. Through your voice, you can cast spells to slow down time, send enemies flying back, summon thunderstorms, and you have knowledge on the weaknesses of all immortals. Dragon Form. This ability will take a while to master. You can now take the form of a dragon, shapeshifting like the grand dragons do, but you will only be able to take on the form of a bear-sized worm at first. It will take years, if not decades, to take on the form of a full-sized dragon. Inner Dragon. Your soul is that of a dragon, and thus you can speak their language perfectly, and you have complete knowledge on the mannerisms and weaknesses of all dragons. Dragons also despise being bound and enslaved, and if you ever find yourself such, your inner dragon will give you strength. Divine Powers. Only those with the Godspawn origin can take these powers. Your first power is free, all others cost 5 points each. Flight. Through mastery of the wind and sky, you can soar through the air faster than even the mighty dragons, faster than a cheetah can run. You can also summon or dispel rain, thunderstorms, and call down lightning from the very sky. Fire. You can summon the boiling magma of the earth up from the ground, and you are completely immune to its heat. You can crush rock into lava, lift the melted rock into the air and hurl it, or even force nearby volcanoes to explode. War. The godly blood in your veins fills your body with energy, allowing you to fight for hours or days on end without tiring. You are also a master of all forms of combat, including unarmed, ranged, mounted, and melee. Finally, you have an incredible strategic and tactical mind, equal to the greatest of generals. Fertility. You are incredibly beautiful, attractive, charismatic, and alluring. You have natural talent in all forms of music, and people flock to your side wherever you go. Nature also recognizes you, allowing you to talk to and command animals, and you can make crops grow wherever you go. Shape. You can at will change your shape into a number of mundane and wondrous forms. You can turn into any form you can imagine, transform into any animal you can think of, and you can turn into an enormous rhino-sized eagle or a shark bigger than an elephant. Focus. For but a few moments you can bring time to a standstill, where you can move and fight but nothing else can. You can only do this once an hour, but it is very useful for avoiding potentially lethal attacks or slipping out of deadly situations. Damphir Powers. Only those with a Nightkin origin can take these powers. Your first power is free, all other powers cost 5 points each. Flash Step. You can, once every few minutes, accelerate your speed for a few seconds. You instantly become faster than the eye can see, allowing you to run across a large room so fast that you appear to teleport. Not even those with enhanced senses can follow your movements. Shape change. You can warp and shape your own form, turning into a single bat, a swarm of bats, or a fierce wolf. You can also, after you've recently fed from a victim, turn into a master vampire form, which is a massive humanoid bat monster. This form is extremely powerful, but also draining. Spectral form, Beta. The secondary spectral form. You become more like a ghast than a ghost. You can interact with things in this form, and only magic can touch you. You can also slip through tiny cracks in doors and walls, but you cannot fly or phase through matter. Soul Split. You can briefly split your soul, creating duplicates of yourself that fight for and alongside you. These duplicates have a little more than half of your strength and speed, and you can make up to 6. When one of your copies is slain, your soul piece will rejoin you. Life Drain. You can drain the life from your victims, either slowly through touch or rapidly through blood drain. In a gas form, you can drain life, but very slowly. Draining life force boosts your regenerative ability, refills your stamina, and temporarily gives you a boost to agility and to your senses. In the shadows. As a vampire, you can fade into the shadows, turning invisible as long as there is little to no light shining on you. You can also somewhat control the shadows, making them physical in order to trap or attack enemies with living darkness. Boons. Each boon must be bought by taking a drawback, and can be purchased multiple times unless otherwise stated. Beyond Human. Through some weird twist of fate and destiny, you have not one but 2 origins. You will have to grapple with your odd mix of abilities and heritages, as well as any new parents this has brought you. Take a second origin. This boon can only be taken once. Gifted. You are just a bit stronger, just a bit faster than you should be. For whatever reason, you got more from your unique origin than you should have. Take an extra 10 points. Strings of Fate. Your destiny will cross those of many others, and some will stick by you until the bitter end. Now, you have a few more to add to this list. Choose 2 more companions. Drawbacks. Pariah. You are a social pariah, even if you have charisma-based powers. People are inherently afraid of you and are reluctant to befriend you or talk to you. Expect to be rejected from inns and even driven out of a town once or twice. Orphaned. Your mentor was slain by an immortal recently. You are on the hunt for their killer. Choose one of the targets to be your primary target. Legacy. You are doomed to never have a blood family. You can never have children, and any child you adopt will quickly grow sick and die. This does not apply to adults that you consider to be family, but are not blood related. Hunted. All of your prey know about you and are actively hunting for you. The more prey you took, the more dangerous it is for you. You will have to live on the move, killing where you can, lest you become the prey. Humble beginnings. You start off with basic human abilities, and you will come into your powers one at a time, as you slay more and more of your prey. It might be best to start small, and work your way up. Thirst. You need to kill. It burns in your chest, deep in your throat. If you go too long without killing one of your prey, you will begin to become deranged, losing your grip on sanity, and on your emotions, until you eventually go insane with bloodlust. Delectable. The very smell of your blood is enough to drive vampires into a feeding frenzy, as they find your blood a delicious, exotic delicacy. Vampires and most other monsters will be able to smell you coming from miles away. Unlucky. You have really shitty luck. You frequently trip over nothing, you get mistaken for a criminal a lot. It often rains on you suddenly, and arrows are more likely to hit you. Also, every shower you ever take will be bitterly cold. Harbinger. If you stay in any one location for too long, roughly longer than a week, then everything around you will start to die slowly. Crops will wither, cattle will get sick, and then people will begin to die the longer you stay in one place. Companions. These loyal allies will follow you through thick and thin. Take 2 companions. Kabil, a Mayan warrior who once fought for his gods in glorious combat. He had a change of heart after his people sacrificed a number of children captured from the Duat. He has since left his homeland, travelling the world, trying to find his purpose in life. Kabil is very strong, tough, and is incredibly skilled in combat. The blessings of his gods still linger within him, granting him the speed and ferocity of the mighty jaguar. Kabil is a very quiet, noble, honourable person, who often overthinks things and ponders philosophy and the nature of the world. He is rather intelligent for a huge, muscled warrior, and he is very self-aware and introspective. He adores long-winded conversations about the world, and will frequently ask random questions trying to prompt such conversations. Lucia. Lucia is a Damphir, the daughter of one of the mighty vampire lords of Zazia, and thus she possesses incredible strength, speed, durability, senses, and powers over the night. She is particularly skilled in shapeshifting in the Flash Step. Lucia is an excellent fighter, duelist, and fencer, being trained by her father since she was a baby. She despises what the other vampire lords do to humans, and believes vampires and humans should leave each other alone, but she knows the other lords will never do that. Lucia is a very confident, charismatic person, never flinching in the face of danger. She is very sly, manipulative, and intelligent. She is also rather withdrawn, rarely discussing herself, and she is a massive pessimist, always assuming the worst is about to or going to happen. Najasa. Najasa Stormclaw is a Dragonborn, one of only 3 currently alive in the world, and the only one who opposes the rule of the dragons. She possesses incredible strength and durability, and she can breathe fire like the dragons can. She can even shapeshift into a fully grown dragon and take to the skies. Najasa is a leader, a person of action, someone who does not enjoy sitting around and doing nothing. She always needs to be working on something, whether that's travelling, sharpening her sword, or killing dragons. She is incredibly confident, brave, and very motivated. She's also somewhat forceful and domineering, and she will come into conflict with you over strategy or plans at least once. She also conflicts with others like her, as her dragon blood demands she be the leader, dominating the group. Felbrick. A child of immigrants from the Northlands, Felbrick grew up in Zazia, and his magical abilities manifested at an early age, specifically his talent for ice magic. His parents taught him how to fight with a sword, and he combined his magic with his training and became a spell sword for hire, a mercenary. He lived a decent life until he died protecting a town from a Lich King, who dragged his body away and experimented on him, resurrecting him as a revenant. As a revenant, Felbrick is incredibly durable and resistant to the elements, and he retains his mind and his ice magic, but he is completely and utterly driven to destroy any and all undead, especially liches he comes across. Felbrick is noble, strong-willed, honourable, stubborn, and a bit obsessive about his quest. He's a good knight, though, and a loyal warrior. Robbins. Robbins is a member of the Silver Wolves, a group of monster-hunting mercenaries, but she usually travels on her own, only meeting back up with them on occasion. She is an experienced, dedicated monster hunter, knows everything there is to know about hunting the monsters of this world. She is also a master swordsman, duelist, tracker, and hunter. Despite being a warrior for hire, she has a big heart, will often stop to help people with monster problems, despite them being unable to pay her. She is a bit of a loner, preferring to keep to herself, and there are very few exceptions to this. One is her daughter, Kida. Robbins is very stubborn, but also a bit gullible. She often gets caught up in bandit traps because she went to go help someone. Bishop. A quiet, monster-killing machine, Bishop is a total wild card. He never talks about himself, and he is very quiet most of the time. He is an absolute monster on the battlefield, carving opponents to pieces with ease, and one has to wonder if he's even human under that armoured suit, which he never takes off. Bishop is completely and utterly obsessed with ridding the world of monsters, but is willing to spare kind, gentle monsters that don't hurt humans, as long as they prove themselves worthy of his mercy. Bishop is unpredictable, especially in combat, frequently employing unconventional weapons and tactics, mainly random explosives. Bishop is rather stoic, humorless, and is brutally honest most of the time, but he is incredibly creative in terms of his weaponry and arsenal, and his wide array of tactics. Ragnfast. A berserker from the Northlands, Ragnfast is a terrifying foe on any battlefield with his incredible strength, his ability to shapeshift into a massive bear, and his ability to ignore any and all pain. Ragnfast grew tired of the constant warfare in the Northlands, and dreams of building a new nation, one where the Nords are united under one flag, at peace, and capable of building incredible wonders like those of other nations. He knows he can never make this dream come true until the gods of the land are killed and thrown away, and he loves his people enough to follow through. Ragnfast is a loyal, noble, strong-willed person who never gives up and never surrenders. He is very stubborn and is almost obsessive about his dreams. Akita. Akita is an Olympian demigod, the daughter of the local god of war, and was a loyal warrior and follower until the day the gods got her family killed, and she swore vengeance. She is obsessed with destroying the gods and despises them with all her heart and soul. As a demigod, she is incredibly strong, fast, durable, and is a master of combat. She can beat most vampires in a melee fight, and even give most gods a run for their money. Her bloodlust is insatiable. She needs to fight. If she doesn't, she goes slowly insane with rage and hatred. Akita is loyal to you as long as you are loyal to her cause and have her back. She is incredibly stubborn, loud, violent, and thick-headed, preferring to run into a fight screaming, rather than employ stealth or tactics. Swain. Sir Swain of Calloway is a noble, brave knight and a local monster slayer, keeping his city and nation safe from the forces of darkness. He is a powerful warrior, carrying an enchanted blade that burns all monsters it touches, and can cut through just about any non-magical blade or shield. Swain is a simple man. He just wants to protect his people and do his duty to his country, and he knows that the monsters will never stop coming until the immortals are overthrown. Swain is a quiet loner, and is very thoughtful and introspective. He is also incredibly loyal and devoted, though he can be a bit gullible at times, as he tends to see the best in people. Colby. Colby is one of the strongest wind magi in the world, a wandering sorceress capable of blowing dozens of men down to the ground, frying people with chain lightning, and she can even summon tornadoes every once in a while. Born to a secluded group of magi, Colby grew annoyed and tired of their complacency with the state of the world, and she eventually left in order to help improve the lives of others. Colby is a very free-spirited, light-hearted young woman who wants to make the world a better place, and will thus insist on stopping to help everyone you come across. She is kind, gentle, generous, supportive, and loving. She is also a very fun-loving and enjoyable person who lights up a room with her smile. She has a very naive and optimistic outlook on life, but perhaps that's not such a bad thing. Pallas. Pallas was the loyal priestess of an Olympian goddess, and was revered for her beauty and wit, until she fell in love with a woman and broke her vow of chastity. In anger, the goddess cursed Pallas to be a very unique monster. Pallas becomes a nocturnal, obligate carnivore, with a mouth full of sharp teeth and razor-sharp retractable claws, capable of slicing a jugular in one quick motion. She can see in the dark, run and move faster than any human. She heals incredibly quickly, and her reflexes and reaction times are better than most vampires. Pallas is very charismatic and charming, but she is also very jaded about the world, often assuming the worst in people, and despises the gods for what they did to her. She doesn't trust easily, but she is a powerful ally once you get her on your side. Mercy. Mercy is the oldest daughter of the Duatian Emperor, and is on a quest to free her people from the tyranny of the gods, because she believes, with all her heart, that they deserve better lives. She cannot improve her people's statuses with the gods and all of their commands. Mercy is a decent fire mage and knows her way around a sword, but truly shines in her diplomatic and negotiation skills. Mercy is a woman of action. She is very confident, calm, cool-headed, regal, and always seems to be in control of the situation. She has a very level head, and she is very honest, fair and noble, but she also tends to be rather uptight and bossy. She's very cold and professional at first, and and she never lets herself relax, but deep down she desperately needs someone she can let herself relax with. Kida. A very young monster hunter, Kida is very inexperienced and untrained, but has the potential to be one of the greatest spell swords the world has ever seen. Currently she only knows enough to set a sword ablaze with mage fire, and how to make herself faster using air magic, but she could and will quickly master the 3 elements and more magics beyond. Kida was raised by the Silver Wolves, a group of monster hunters, and is thus very skilled in the hunting and killing of practically all monsters. Kida is a rebellious, free-spirited soul, who adores danger and thrill. She is very brave, courageous, fearless, as well as very relaxed and fun-loving. She has a strong desire to be independent and not depend on anyone. She's going to end up getting into trouble and needing you more than a few times. Sarah Hyde. An experienced vampire hunter, Sarah Hyde is one of the only half-demons to ever live, since humans rarely survive mating with demons. Her demonic blood gives her incredible speed, strength, and enormous mastery over fire magic, enough that she can burn most lesser vampires to a crisp with a wave of her hand. She is also a master acrobat and carries a powerful enchanted crossbow that kills vampires. Sarah is a rebellious thrill-seeker who loves diving into vampire-infested castles or dungeons crawling with undead. She adores adrenaline rushes and she is very capable, brave and confident. However, she is also very short-tempered, and she often gets into trouble by rushing into danger. Eve. A brilliant young sorceress, Eve has devoted her life to 2 things, helping people and learning everything there is to know about magic. She is a master healer, but where she really shines is her elemental magic. She is a master in all 3 forms of elemental magic, and there are few on Earth better in the arcane arts than she. Eve desperately wants to make the world a better place, and sees the opportunity to do so through you. She often, if not almost always, prioritizes the need of others before her own, frequently running herself ragged to help others. She's also a little naive, often believing the best in people. Eve is kind, generous, supportive, and is a great listener. She also adores books, libraries, and intellectual discussions of all kinds. Jorun. The daughter of a Nordic demigod, Jorun's partially distilled divine blood gives her greater strength and durability than a normal human, roughly the same as most vampires possess. Also, due to being a Nord, she is incredibly resistant to the cold, and ice magic is far less effective on her. Jorun has been in combat since she was old enough to walk. Such is life in the cold, brutal Northlands. She is incredibly skilled in melee combat, and with her enhanced strength, she can send men flying from the force of her axe swings. Jorun is brave, loyal, tough as nails, and is incredibly eager to prove herself. All she wants is to fight and support those she cares about, to protect those around her. She cares little for the gods, but for her family, she'd kill every last immortal on Earth to protect them. Targets. Choose your prey, Slayer. Pick 3 targets in line with your prey choices. Desdemona. Desdemona of Charlotte is a clever seductress and master manipulator, toying with the humans in her lands, making them slaughter each other over suspicions of vampirism. She is a brilliant and beautiful tactician, but she is quite a powerful warrior as well, specializing in magical attacks. You can find her on the west coast of Zazia, in the Charlotte district, a place where few go due to the constant lynching and inquisitions. Balthazar. Balthazar Rebraio is a fearsome warrior who loves the thrill of battle. He leads his vampires in constant raids on human towns, other vampire lords, and the Lich Kings, just for the thrill of it, just for the blood and gore. He is surprisingly honourable, however, as he treats his captured prisoners of war with dignity and respect, giving them fine accommodations until he eats them. Balthazar is a brutal warrior with skills in shapeshifting, and he is a master swordsman. Ulysses. Ulysses of Ravenwood is an artist, you see. A very refined individual with a taste for the finer things in life, like blood painting and torture. He mostly hides out in Ravenwood Castle, painting art, making sculptures, and dining on the finest peasants Zazia has to offer. He commands a small legion of elite lesser vampires, which he uses gleefully. Ulysses is a sadistic bastard with immense speed and strength, and is devilishly clever. He is also Lucia's uncle. Angkor. Angkor is a Duatian lich, and is the creator of the fearsome mummies that prowl the sands of the Duatian deserts. His mummies are incredibly strong and possess the ability to spread plague and disease, and he frequently employs his legions of them upon the mortals for more subjects to experiment on. He himself is a brilliant yet near senile old lich, one of the first ever born, and is thus very forgetful, but he should not be underestimated. He has magical power over the desert, over the sand and heat, and is very hard to kill. Kal-El. Kal-El is a very young lich, and is surprisingly beautiful for an undead lord. She is Mayan, and primarily lives there, making fearsome bone golems and skeletal legions. Her constructs can stretch dozens of feet high, made up of dozens of skeletons. She is well known for being rather generous to the locals, giving them access to her bone golems for raised on the Duat, in exchange for prisoners to experiment on. She is a powerful telekinetic, and her bone golem should not be overlooked, as they possess immense strength. Ruakra. Ruakra the Frozen Lich lives at the northern tips of Zazia, and thus frequently fights off the raiding parties of Norse that land on his shores. He is a cruel, heartless monster, who tortures his victims long and slowly, testing the effects of mental degradation on the quality of his creations. He is well known for the creation of revenants, though he cannot always control them, as evidenced by Fulbrig. Ruak is also a master of ice magic, and can summon ice monsters and blizzards at a moment's notice. Chivnoa. One of the few grand dragons that almost always stays in human form. Chivnoa the Warlord is a fearsome conqueror, always battling the other dragons for domination, as dragons are wont to do. She is by far the most warlike of the dragons, and one day seeks to overthrow Pwntatochip himself, and take her rightful place by the almighty god dragon's side. Chivnoa is very warlike, and is thus an excellent warrior and fighter in all her forms. Pwntatochip. Pwntatochip is the oldest living grand dragon, the son of Bahamut, and the leader of all dragons in the world. He is an oppressive tyrant, who sees the mortals as ants to be stepped on, and sees himself as incredibly merciful for not doing so, allowing them to be of use to the true masterful race that is dragonkind. Pwntatochip is incredibly cocky, overconfident, and frequently brags about himself, but he is the second greatest magic user on the planet, capable of summoning thunderstorms and meteors from the sky, so perhaps his confidence is somewhat earned. Nearsnet. Nearsnet the Wise is a kind, graceful dragon, who has all but mastered air magic, and is content with his power, unlike most dragons who constantly squabble with each other. He actually spends most of his time teaching humans the ways of magic, but has never once made an effort to otherwise better their lives. He also doesn't make their lives worse, he just seems to enjoy teaching, as that's all he does. If he turned against the dragons, the humans of Draconia would begin to think of revolution. Anhoromez. Duatian god of wisdom and wind, Anhoromez is a master of magic and knowledge, and hoards all knowledge of the world to himself. He has refused on many occasions to share his knowledge with the mortals, stating that they are too stupid to understand the brilliance he has collected. He is an incredibly self-assured, overconfident god, who believes in himself wholeheartedly. Not even his fellow gods can see his wisdom, as he jealously guards it to the death. Svala. Norse goddess of death, night and gateways. Svala is the main god who spurs the mortals of the Northlands to battle, because war and death fuel her power. Svala has a lust for power, souls and worship, and will do anything there is to get more of it. She is incredibly selfish, cruel and manipulative, often going down to earth and killing people just for the fun of it, and then having the mortals blame each other for it, for doing something to anger her. Alcides. Alcides is the Olympian god of war, blood and slaughter, and he follows his aspects to the death. Well, not his death of course, but the deaths of others. His followers raid the Zazians, the Northlands, and even their fellow Olympians, all in his lust for blood and power. He is hatred incarnate, and despises most mortals, but he is usually quite good at being reined back by his father, Empythian, but lately he has gone off his leash, terrorizing the world. The Ancients. The Ancients are the children of Chaos, the first beings to ever live. Choose one to eventually go after. Parthenia. Parthenia the Black, mother of vampires. She is as old as time itself, as old as the very world. It is from her that all other vampires have been spawned, and the mighty vampire lords are her oldest children. She is strong enough to easily rend stone and steel as if it were paper, fast enough to appear to teleport, and she can regenerate from any wound within seconds. She also wields significant magical powers. She mostly sits in her castle in Zazia, studying the natures of biology and magic. Bahamut. Bahamut the Mighty is the father of all dragons. He sleeps now, but at his full height he is larger than most mountains, with breath to level countries and wings to block out the sun. He is a cruel overlord, demanding tribute from the dragons each time he wakes, and waits for them to hold food into his mouth. He currently sleeps under the mountains of Draconia. It would take a truly tremendous force to even wake him, let alone kill him. Stroquil. Stroquil the Luminous, mother of liches, seeker of truth. To be honest, she cares little for the mortals either way, preferring not to interact with them. Instead, she travels the continents and the lands beyond in disguise, seeking and exploring all there is to know. She is the greatest wielder of magic on the planet, and she is also one of the smartest people to ever live. Finding her might be harder than beating her, in battle honestly. Yatzil. Yatzil the Golden is beloved by almost all mortals, for she is kind, generous, and loving. Goddess of the Sun, Yatzil is the mother to both the Duatian and Mayan families of gods. They split due to disagreements over the mortals early on in history, millennia ago, and have warred ever since. Yatzil's heart was broken over seeing her family torn apart, and retreated to high above the world, to tend to the sun in peace and solitude, leaving the mortals to their own devices, to be tormented by the gods, where she could have freed them. Empythian. Empythian the Great, father of the Olympians, is the god of the sky, life and wisdom for Olympia. He was the one who created mortals in the first place, or so the stories go. He is a very distant god who mostly prefers to let his children do whatever they want with the mortal world, as long as they do not inflict too much harm on them. Empythian commands immense strength and powers over weather, lightning, wind, and air. He is also a brilliant strategist and tactician. You can find him at Olympus, the highest mountain in Olympia. Auti. Auti, father of the Norse, is a wise old man and a god of wisdom, tactics, war, and death. He is also a cruel old man who enjoys manipulating the mortals to his whims. He enjoys the power he holds over them, and he is not above stabbing his own children in the back in order to get his way. Auti is a fearsome foe, for he prefers to sit back and let his children do the fighting for him. To get to him, you'd have to fight through dozens of gods and monsters, as well as climb atop the highest peak in the Northlands. Choices. You have a choice to make, Slayer. Which path shall you walk? Humanity Ascendant. You will hunt down and kill every last immortal being on the planet, and with your last few years, distribute their knowledge and magic to the world, creating a new golden age for humanity. Humanity will rise, all because of you. Perfectly balanced. Some immortals do not deserve your wrath, you admit. You shall spare the kind, the gentle, the generous, and slaughter the rest. Humanity will be free to worship the good gods, not the ones they were forced to have. Embrace eternity. You shall seek to become that which you hate. It is the only way to fight on an even playing field. Somehow, some way, you shall become immortal, and you will make this world right as you become the one true God.